Ethan Carter stood frozen in a restaurant full of strangers, watching the woman across from him, the powerful CEO he'd been trying to impress, stare at her declined credit card like it had just betrayed her in front of the entire world. Her face went pale. The waiter shifted uncomfortably. And in that single humiliating moment, everything Ethan thought he knew about strength, success, and what it meant to survive completely shattered. What happened next would change both their lives forever. If you want to see how a single dinner turned into a love story that rebuilt two broken lives, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Ethan Carter had not slept through the night in 4 years. That was how long it had been since his ex-wife walked out, leaving him alone with their daughter and a startup that was hemorrhaging money faster than he could replace it. Most nights he worked until 2 or 3 in the morning, hunched over his laptop at the kitchen table, trying to fix bugs in an education app that was supposed to revolutionize classroom learning, but mostly just refused to load properly on older tablets. Then he'd crawl into bed for 3 hours, wake up to his daughter's alarm, make breakfast, pack her lunch, drop her off at school, and start the whole miserable cycle over again. He was 32 years old, and he felt 50. Today was worse than usual because he had a date tonight, his first real date in over a year, and he had no idea how he was going to stay awake through it. His daughter Maya had been the one to push him into it, actually. She was 8 now, sharp as a whip and way too observant for her own good. "Dad, you look like a zombie," she told him last week over breakfast. She was eating cereal and swinging her legs under the table, her dark curls still messy from sleep. "Thanks, sweetheart. Real confidence booster?" "I'm serious. You never go anywhere. You never talk to anyone except me and your work people. It's depressing." "I talk to people." "Name one person you've talked to this week who isn't me, Mrs. Rodriguez, or someone sending you an email about your app." Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "See?" Maya said triumphantly. "You can't." "I'm busy, Maya. I'm trying to keep this company alive so we can, eat food and live indoors." "Yeah, but you're also sad all the time." That one hit him harder than he wanted to admit. He set down his coffee. "I'm not sad." "You are, though. You think I don't notice, but I do." She was looking at him with those big brown eyes that were way too wise for an 8-year-old, and Ethan felt something crack open in his chest. He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I'm okay, kiddo. I promise." "Then prove it. Go on a date or something." "A date?" "Yeah, like normal people do." "Where am I supposed to meet someone? I barely leave the house." Maya shrugged. "I don't know." "The internet?" That's what Aunt Lisa did. Aunt Lisa was Ethan's younger sister, who had met her husband on a dating app 3 years ago and now lived in a beautiful house in the suburbs with 2 golden retrievers and a baby on the way. Ethan loved his sister, but comparing his life to hers felt like comparing a dumpster fire to a scented candle. Still, the conversation stuck with him. That night, after Maya went to bed, he downloaded a dating app. He stared at the empty profile for 20 minutes, trying to figure out what the hell to write about himself. Exhausted single dad with a failing startup and 0 free time. Swipe right if you enjoy financial instability and emotional unavailability. He ended up writing something generic and hopeful, uploaded a photo from 2 years ago when he still looked halfway human, and tossed his phone onto the couch. 2 days later, he matched with Sienna Hayes. Her profile was simple. A few photos, polished, professional, the kind of person who looked like she had her life completely together. CEO of a mid-sized marketing firm, 30 years old. Her bio said she liked hiking, good food, and honest conversation. Ethan almost didn't message her because she seemed way out of his league, but then he thought about Maya calling him a zombie, and he typed out something before he could overthink it. "Hi. I'm terrible at this, but you seem interesting. Want to grab coffee sometime?" She replied within an hour. "I'm terrible at this too. Coffee sounds great. Coffee." They texted back and forth for a few days. Sienna was funny, sharp, a little guarded. She didn't talk much about work, but she asked him questions about his daughter and his company in a way that felt genuinely curious, not just polite. When she suggested they skip coffee and go straight to dinner, Ethan almost said no because dinner felt too formal, too high stakes. But then he thought about Maya again and said yes. Now it was Friday night, and he was standing in front of his bathroom mirror trying to make himself look like someone worth dating. "You got this," he muttered to his reflection. His reflection did not look convinced. Maya knocked on the door. Dad, you're going to be late. I'm not going to be late. You're definitely going to be late. You've been in there for like 20 minutes. He opened the door. Maya was standing in the hallway wearing her pajamas and holding her tablet, which meant she was probably watching videos instead of doing her homework like she was supposed to. How do I look? He asked. She squinted at him. You look nervous. That's not what I asked. You look fine, but you're making that face you make when you're freaking out about something. I'm not freaking out. You're totally freaking out. It's just dinner, Dad. You're going to be fine. He crouched down so they were at eye level. You sure you're okay staying with Mrs. Rodriguez tonight? Yeah, she lets me watch whatever I want and she makes really good cookies. I'll be fine. If you need anything, Dad, go. You're going to be late. He kissed her forehead, grabbed his jacket, and headed out the door before he could talk himself out of it. Well, the restaurant Sienna had picked was nicer than anywhere Ethan had been in months. It wasn't fancy exactly, but it had cloth napkins and a wine list and the kind of ambient lighting that made everyone look like they were in a movie. Ethan arrived 10 minutes early because he hated being late, and he sat at the bar nursing a water while he tried to calm his nerves. He hadn't done this in so long. He didn't know how to do this anymore. What if he said something stupid? What if she realized within 5 minutes that he was a mess and made up an excuse to leave? What if... Ethan? He turned, and there she was. Sienna Hayes was even more striking in person. She had dark hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that looked like they could see straight through you. She was wearing a black blazer over a simple blouse, professional but not overly formal. And when she smiled at him, Ethan felt his entire nervous system short-circuit. Hi, he managed. You made it. I did. She slid onto the stool next to him. You look nervous. I'm not nervous. You're doing that thing where you're gripping your water glass like it's going to escape. He looked down. She was right. He loosened his grip and laughed, embarrassed. Okay, maybe I'm a little nervous. Good, me too. You don't look nervous. I'm very good at pretending. She ordered a glass of wine, and when it arrived, she took a long sip. So, first real date in how long? Is it that obvious? You have the energy of someone who would rather be anywhere else. That's not true. I want to be here. I'm just out of practice. How long? He hesitated. A year, maybe a little more. Divorced? Yeah, about 4 years ago. She nodded slowly, like she was filing that information away. Kids? 1, daughter. She's 8. That's a good age. It's a terrifying age. She's smarter than me and she knows it. Sienna laughed, and the sound of it was warm and real and made Ethan relax just a little. What's her name? Maya. Pretty name. Yeah, she picked it, actually. Well, her mom and I picked it, but Maya approved, so that's what mattered. The hostess appeared and told them their table was ready. They followed her to a booth near the back, and once they were seated, Ethan realized he had no idea what to say next. The silence stretched, and he scrambled for something to fill it. So, CEO, huh? That's impressive. Sienna shrugged. It sounds more impressive than it is. How so? It's a small company. We do marketing and branding for mid-sized businesses, mostly local stuff. It's not like I'm running Google or anything. Still, that's a big responsibility. Yeah, it is. She looked down at her menu, and for a second something flickered across her face. Something tired, maybe even sad. But then she looked back up and smiled. What about you? Your profile said you're working on an education app? Trying to, yeah, it's not going great. Why not? He laughed, but it came out bitter. Because I'm terrible at business, apparently. I built this thing that I really believe in, an app that helps kids with learning disabilities stay engaged in the classroom, but I can't get investors to care. They all say the same thing. It's too niche. The market's too small. The margins aren't there. So now I'm burning through what little savings I have left and hoping I can figure it out before I run out of money. He stopped, realizing he'd just word vomited his entire life story in the first 5 minutes. Sorry, that was, a lot. But Sienna didn't look put off. If anything, she looked more interested. Don't apologize. I get it. You do? Yeah. Running a company it's exhausting. People see the title and they think you have everything figured out, but most of the time you're just drowning and pretending you're not. Ethan stared at her. That's exactly what it feels like, right? Like you're supposed to have all the answers, but you don't. And if you admit that, everyone loses faith in you. So you just keep smiling and pretending everything's fine even when it's falling apart. Yes, Jesus, yes. They looked at each other, and something unspoken passed between them. A recognition, maybe, or just the relief of being understood. Ethan felt the knot in his chest loosen just a little. The waiter came by to take their order. Ethan got the cheapest entree on the menu because he was trying to stretch his budget as far as possible, and Sienna ordered something that sounded fancy but didn't seem overly expensive. They talked more as they waited for their food, about work, about stress, about the weird pressure of being in your 30s and feeling like you were supposed to have everything together by now, but mostly just felt like you were faking it. Sienna was easy to talk to. She didn't bullshit him, didn't try to impress him, didn't act like her life was perfect. She told him about the family expectations she'd been carrying since she was a kid, how her parents had always pushed her to be successful, to be strong, to be the one who held everything together. She told him about the loneliness that came with being in charge, how hard it was to let people in when you spent all day making decisions and projecting confidence. It's like you build this wall around yourself, she said, and then one day you realize you're completely alone behind it. Yeah, Ethan said quietly, I know that feeling. Dinner arrived. The food was good. Better than good, actually. And for a little while they just ate and enjoyed the comfortable silence. Ethan was starting to think this might actually be going well. Maybe he wasn't completely broken. Maybe he could do this. And then the check came. The waiter set it down in the middle of the table and Sienna reached for it immediately. I've got this, she said. You sure? I invited you. I've got it. She pulled out her credit card and handed it to the waiter without even looking at the total. Ethan felt a little weird about it. He wasn't used to being the one who didn't pay, but he also wasn't in a position to argue. His bank account was running on fumes, and he'd already done the math in his head to make sure he could cover his half if he needed to. They kept talking while they waited for the waiter to come back. Sienna was telling him a story about a disastrous client meeting when the waiter reappeared, looking uncomfortable. I'm sorry, he said quietly, but your card was declined. Do you have another one? Sienna's face went blank. What? Your card was declined. It happens sometimes. Could be a fraud hold or... That's not possible. Her voice was tight, controlled. Try it again. The waiter hesitated. I did try it twice. It didn't go through. Ethan watched the color drain from Sienna's face. She stared at the card like it had just betrayed her in front of the entire restaurant. Her hands were shaking slightly as she took it back. Give me a second, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through something, her banking app, probably. Ethan could see the panic setting in, the way her jaw tightened, the way her breathing got a little faster. He knew that panic. He'd lived it. Sienna, he said gently. I don't understand, she muttered, still staring at her phone. I just transferred money yesterday. It should be... Sienna. She looked up at him, and for the first time all night, the polished, confident CEO was gone. In her place was someone who looked terrified and humiliated and completely lost. I'm so sorry, she said. I don't know what happened. I'll call my bank, or I can... Hey, it's okay. It's not okay. This is so embarrassing. Ethan pulled out his own card and handed it to the waiter. Here, use this. Ethan, no, you don't have to... It's fine. It's not fine. I told you I'd cover it, and now you're... Sienna, stop. He looked her in the eye. It's fine. I've got it. The waiter took his card and disappeared. Sienna sat there staring at the table, her hands clenched in her lap. She looked like she wanted to sink through the floor. I'm sorry, she said again, and this time her voice cracked just a little. This is humiliating. It's not. Yes, it is. I'm supposed to be... She stopped herself, shook her head. Never mind, I'm sorry. Ethan leaned forward. Can I tell you something? She looked at him, wary. 3 months ago, he said, I had to choose between paying my internet bill and buying groceries. I picked groceries, so I spent 2 weeks working out of coffee shops and using their Wi-Fi. Last month, my landlord called me because my rent check bounced. I had to borrow money from my sister to cover it. 2 weeks ago, Maya wanted to sign up for soccer, and I had to tell her we couldn't afford it right now. Sienna's eyes widened slightly. So trust me, Ethan continued, when I say I get it, I know what it's like to feel like you're supposed to have everything together and then have one stupid thing remind you that you're barely holding on. And I know what it's like to feel humiliated because you can't do something as simple as pay for dinner. She stared at him, her eyes glistening just a little. You didn't have to tell me that. I wanted to, because I don't want you sitting here thinking you're the only person who's struggling. You're not. And this, he gestured at the table, this doesn't change anything. Not for me. The waiter came back with Ethan's card and the receipt. Ethan signed it, and they both stood to leave. As they walked out of the restaurant, Sienna was quiet, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold herself together. When they got outside, she stopped and turned to him. Thank you, she said, for not making me feel worse about that. There's nothing to feel worse about. Still, you didn't have to be so kind. Yeah, I did. She looked at him for a long moment, and then, to his surprise, she smiled, small and sad, but genuine. You're not what I expected. Is that a good thing? I think so. They stood there on the sidewalk, neither of them quite ready to leave yet. The night was cool, the city buzzing around them, and Ethan realized he didn't want this to end. Not yet. Do you want to walk for a bit? He asked. Sienna hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I'd like that. They walked. They didn't talk much at first. They just walked side by side through the city streets, past late-night coffee shops and closed storefronts and groups of people spilling out of bars. Eventually, Sienna started talking again, quietly at first, then more openly. She told him about the pressure she'd been under at work, how her company was doing well on paper, but how she was constantly scrambling to keep up with expenses and payroll and client demands. She told him about her family, how her parents expected her to be perfect, how her younger brother was a mess, and she was the one everyone relied on to fix things. She told him about the credit card, how she'd maxed it out covering business expenses last month, and had been waiting for a client payment to come through so she could pay it down, but the payment had been delayed. I thought I transferred enough to cover tonight, she said. I swear I did, but I must have miscalculated, or maybe the payment didn't clear yet, or I don't know. I don't even know anymore. You don't have to explain, Ethan said. I feel like I do. You don't. Not to me. She glanced at him. Why are you being so nice to me? Because I like you. The words came out before he could stop them. Sienna stopped walking. They were standing under a street lamp, and she was looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. You don't even know me, she said softly. I know enough. Do you? I know you're stressed and exhausted and trying to hold everything together even though it's killing you. I know you care enough about people that you put their needs before your own. I know you're scared of letting anyone see that you're not okay. And I know what it's like to feel that way, so yeah, I like you. Sienna's eyes were shining now, and for a second he thought she might cry, but instead she laughed, a short, surprised sound. Jesus, she said, you're really direct, aren't you? Sorry, I don't have the energy to play games anymore. Good. Neither do I. They started walking again, slower this time. After a while, Sienna reached out and took his hand. Ethan's heart stuttered, but he didn't pull away. Her hand was warm and small in his, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Why did you agree to go out with me? You clearly have a lot on your plate. You have a kid, a company that's struggling, no time for anything. Why add dating to all of that? Ethan thought about it. My daughter told me I looked like a zombie. Sienna laughed. Seriously? Yeah, she said I was sad all the time and that I needed to do something about it, so I did. Smart kid. She is. They walked a little further, and then Sienna stopped again. They were standing in front of a small park, empty except for a few benches and a street lamp casting long shadows across the grass. I should probably get home, she said, but she didn't move. Yeah, me too. Neither of them moved. This was really nice, Sienna said, even with the card situation. Especially because of the card situation. She smiled. Why's that? Because it felt real. I'm tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not. Tonight felt honest. Yeah, she said quietly. It did. She stepped a little closer, and Ethan's pulse quickened. He wasn't sure if she was going to kiss him or just say goodbye, but then she rose up on her toes and pressed her lips to his, soft, brief, and so gentle it almost hurt. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "Good night, Ethan," she said. "Good night, Sienna." She walked away, and Ethan stood there watching her until she disappeared around a corner. Then he pulled out his phone and called his sister. "Hey," Lisa said. "How'd it go?" "I think I just met someone," he said. Lisa laughed. "Good. It's about time, Matt." The next morning, Ethan woke up to a text from Sienna. "Thank you for last night. I mean it. Can we do it again sometime?" He sat up in bed, grinning like an idiot, and typed back, "Anytime." Maya appeared in his doorway, still in her pajamas. "You're smiling. That's weird. Good morning to you too, kiddo. How was your date?" "It was good. Did you kiss her?" "Maya." "What? I'm just asking. Go eat breakfast." She grinned and ran off, and Ethan sat there staring at his phone, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Sienna kept seeing each other. It wasn't easy. They were both swamped with work and responsibilities, but they made it work. Coffee before Ethan dropped Maya off at school. Lunch when Sienna had a break between meetings. Late-night phone calls after Maya went to bed, where they talked about everything and nothing until one of them fell asleep. Sienna was different than anyone Ethan had dated before. She was driven, focused, sometimes a little guarded. But when she let her guard down, she was warm and funny and unexpectedly vulnerable. She asked about Maya constantly, wanted to know what she liked, what she was into, how Ethan managed being a single parent. She didn't try to give advice or fix things. She just listened, and Ethan was grateful for it. Their second date was simpler. They got takeout and ate it in a park while Maya was at a friend's house. Sienna told him more about her company, how she'd built it from the ground up, but was now struggling to keep up with the growth. Ethan told her about his app, how close he was to losing everything, but how he couldn't bring himself to give up yet. "Why not?" Sienna asked. "If it's making you this miserable, why keep going?" "Because I believe in it. I know that sounds naive, but I do. I think it could actually help kids who need it. And if I give up now, then what was the point of any of it?" Sienna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I get that. I think I'm the same way with my company. It's killing me, but I can't imagine walking away from it." "So what do we do?" "I don't know. Keep going, I guess. Until we can't anymore." They looked at each other, and Ethan felt that same recognition again, the sense that they were both carrying something too heavy, but at least they weren't carrying it alone. By their third date, Ethan decided it was time for Sienna to meet Maya. He was nervous about it. Maya was protective of their little family unit, and Ethan didn't want to introduce her to someone unless he was sure it was serious. But the more time he spent with Sienna, the more sure he became. This wasn't just a fling. This was something real. He asked Maya first, of course. They were sitting at the kitchen table one night, and Ethan was helping her with her math homework. "Hey, kiddo, can I ask you something?" "Sure. You know I've been seeing someone, right?" "The CEO lady." "Yeah, her name's Sienna." "I know." "How do you know?" Maya rolled her eyes. "Because you smile at your phone now and you talk to her every night after I go to bed. I'm not an idiot, Dad." "Right, sorry." He cleared his throat. So, I was thinking maybe you could meet her, if you want to." Maya looked up from her homework. "Like, for real?" "Yeah, for real." "Is she your girlfriend?" Yeah, I think so." Maya studied him for a long moment. Then she said, "Is she nice?" "She's very nice." "And she knows about me?" "She knows everything about you. She asks about you all the time." "Okay, then, yeah, I'll meet her." Ethan let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "Thanks, Maya. But if she's mean to you, I'm going to tell her to leave." "Deal." The meeting happened the following Saturday. Sienna came over for lunch, and Ethan made sandwiches because it was the only thing he could reliably cook without screwing up. Maya was nervous, which was rare for her. She kept fidgeting with her hair and asking Ethan if she looked okay. "You look great," he told her. "Just be yourself." When Sienna knocked on the door, Maya ran to answer it before Ethan could stop her. He heard her say, "Hi, I'm Maya. You're Sienna." "I am," Sienna said. "It's nice to meet you, Maya. Your dad talks about you all the time." Good things, I hope. Very good things. Maya led her into the kitchen, where Ethan was standing with a plate of sandwiches, trying not to look as anxious as he felt. Sienna smiled at him, and he felt some of the tension ease. Lunch was surprisingly easy. Maya asked Sienna a million questions: where she lived, what her job was like, if she had any pets, what her favorite color was. Sienna answered all of them patiently, and she asked Maya questions too, about school, about her friends, about what she liked to do for fun. By the time they finished eating, Maya was chattering away like they'd known each other for years. After lunch, Maya dragged Sienna into the living room to show her a drawing she'd been working on. Ethan stayed in the kitchen, cleaning up, and listened to the sound of their voices drifting through the apartment. It felt surreal. Good, but surreal. When Sienna left a few hours later, Maya hugged her goodbye. Ethan walked Sienna to her car, and she turned to him with a soft smile. "Your daughter is amazing," she said. "Yeah, she is. Thank you for letting me meet her. Thank you for being so great with her." Sienna reached out and squeezed his hand. "I meant what I said, Ethan. I really like you, both of you. I really like you too." She kissed him, and for a moment everything else faded away. That night, after Maya went to bed, Ethan sat on the couch and stared at the ceiling, feeling something he couldn't quite name. It wasn't just happiness, it was bigger than that. It was the feeling of possibility, of something good finally taking root in the wreckage of his life. For the first time in years, he let himself believe it might last. 2 months after that first meeting, Sienna was at Ethan's apartment more nights than she wasn't. It happened gradually, the way most good things do. First it was 1 dinner a week, then 2. Then she started showing up on Sunday mornings with bagels and coffee, sitting at the kitchen table while Maya did her homework, and Ethan tried to fix whatever was broken in his app that week. She learned where the plates were kept, which drawer had the silverware, that Maya liked her sandwiches cut diagonally and hated crusts. Small things, ordinary things, things that somehow felt monumental. Ethan hadn't planned for it to happen this way. He'd expected to take things slow, to keep some distance between his personal life and Maya's world, to be careful. But Sienna made that impossible. She fit into their lives like she'd always been there, and Maya adored her in a way that both thrilled and terrified him. One Friday night, Sienna was sitting on the floor with Maya, helping her build an elaborate fort out of couch cushions and blankets. Ethan was in the kitchen pretending to do dishes, but mostly just watching them. Maya was laughing at something Sienna said, and Sienna was laughing too, and the sound of it filled the apartment with something warm and alive. "Dad, can Sienna stay over tonight?" Maya called out. Ethan nearly dropped the plate he was holding. I mean in the guest room," Maya added quickly. "Obviously." "There is no guest room, kiddo. This is a 2-bedroom apartment." "Then she can sleep on the couch. We're having a movie marathon and I don't want her to leave yet." Sienna looked at Ethan, amused. "I don't want to intrude." "You're not intruding," Maya said. "Right, Dad?" Ethan dried his hands on a towel. "Right. You're not intruding, but it's late and Sienna probably has things to do tomorrow." "I don't actually," Sienna said. "I mean, I have work stuff, but I can do that from anywhere. If it's okay with you, I'd love to stay." Maya pumped her fist in the air. "Yes!" So Sienna stayed. They watched 2 movies, ate an entire bag of popcorn, and by the time the second movie ended, Maya was asleep with her head on Sienna's lap. Sienna looked down at her with an expression Ethan couldn't quite read, something soft and careful, like she was holding something fragile. "She's out," Sienna whispered. "Yeah, she does that. 1 minute she's wide awake, the next she's gone." Ethan scooped Maya up and carried her to her room. When he came back, Sienna was folding the blankets from the fort, trying to restore some order to the chaos. "You don't have to do that," Ethan said. "I know, but I made the mess with her, so it feels weird not to clean it up." He smiled. "You're good with her. She makes it easy. Still, a lot of people would have run for the hills by now. Single dad, kid in the picture, all the baggage that comes with it." Sienna set the blankets on the couch and looked at him. "Do I seem like someone who runs from things?" "No. You seem like someone who takes on too much and pretends she's fine." "Takes one to know one." "Fair." She sat down on the couch, and Ethan sat next to her. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic outside. Sienna leaned her head on his shoulder, and Ethan put his arm around her. "Can I tell you something?" she said. "Always. I haven't felt this relaxed in years, like actual years. Being here with you and Maya, it's the first time in a long time I haven't felt like I'm performing for someone. You don't have to perform for us. I know. That's why I like it here." They sat like that for a while, not talking, just existing together. Eventually, Sienna fell asleep, her breathing slow and even against his chest. Ethan stayed awake longer, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what was happening. He'd been so sure after his divorce that he'd never want this again. Never want to let someone in, never want to risk the mess and heartbreak that came with love. But here he was, falling for someone who was just as broken and complicated as he was, and it didn't feel like a risk. It felt like relief. The next morning, he woke up on the couch with a blanket draped over him that he didn't remember grabbing. Sienna was in the kitchen making coffee, and Maya was at the table eating cereal. "Morning, Dad," Maya said cheerfully. "Sienna made pancakes, but I already ate them all." "She's lying," Sienna said. "I saved you some. They're in the microwave." Ethan rubbed his eyes. "You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. Besides, your daughter informed me that you're terrible at breakfast, so I figured I'd help out." "I'm not terrible at breakfast." "Dad, you burned toast." "That was one time. It was 3 times. Sienna laughed, and Ethan shuffled into the kitchen to pour himself coffee. He felt off balance, like his life was moving faster than he could keep up with, but in a way that didn't feel bad. Just unfamiliar. After breakfast, Maya asked if Sienna could take her to the park. Sienna looked at Ethan for permission, and he nodded. "Yeah, go ahead. I've got some work stuff to deal with anyway." The truth was, he didn't just have work stuff. He had a meeting with his last remaining investor, a guy named Derek Chen, who'd been funding the app since the beginning but was starting to lose patience. Derek had called the day before and said they needed to talk, and the tone of his voice made it clear it wasn't going to be a good conversation. Ethan spent the next hour pacing his apartment, running through numbers and projections and arguments for why Derek should keep funding him. The app was close, so close, to being something real. They'd just finished beta testing with a few schools, and the feedback had been incredible. Teachers loved it. Kids with ADHD and dyslexia were staying engaged in ways they hadn't before. But the revenue model wasn't there yet, and investors didn't care about impact if they couldn't see a return. At 11, Ethan walked to the coffee shop where he'd agreed to meet Derek. Derek was already there, sitting at a corner table with his laptop open. He was in his 40s, sharp-dressed, the kind of guy who always looked like he was about to close a deal. "Ethan," Derek said, standing to shake his hand. "Thanks for meeting me." "Of course. Thanks for making time." They sat down, and Derek got straight to it. "I'm going to be honest with you, Ethan. I don't think I can keep funding this." Ethan felt his stomach drop. "Derek, I know you're close, but I've been hearing we're close for 2 years now, and we're still not seeing the traction we need. The beta feedback is great, but great feedback doesn't pay the bills. You need a revenue model, and you need it yesterday." "I'm working on it. I've been talking to school districts about licensing agreements, and there's interest. Real interest." Interest isn't a contract, and even if you land a few contracts, the margins are too thin. You're targeting a niche market with a product that costs more to maintain than it brings in. That's not sustainable. Ethan clenched his jaw. "So that's it? You're pulling out?" Derek sighed. "I'm not pulling out yet, but I need you to show me something concrete by the end of the quarter. A signed contract, a partnership, something that proves this can make money. If you can't do that, I'm done." "That's 2 months." "I know. That's not a lot of time." "Then you'd better work fast." Derek closed his laptop and stood up. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I really am. I believe in what you're trying to do, but belief doesn't keep my firm afloat. I need results." He left, and Ethan sat there staring at his untouched coffee, feeling like the ground had just opened up beneath him. 2 months. He had 2 months to save his company, and he had no idea how he was going to do it. When he got back to the apartment, Sienna and Maya were already there. Maya was drawing at the kitchen table, and Sienna was sitting next to her, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when Ethan walked in, and whatever she saw on his face made her stand up immediately. "What happened?" she asked. "Nothing. I'm fine." "You're clearly not fine." Maya glanced up. "Dad, you look sad." I'm not sad, kiddo, just tired. You're always tired. Sienna touched his arm. Ethan, what happened? He wanted to brush it off, to tell her everything was okay, but he was so tired of pretending. My investor is pulling out, or he will be if I don't land a contract in the next 2 months. Sienna's face fell. Oh, Ethan. It's fine. I'll figure it out. How? I don't know yet, but I will. Maya was watching them now, her crayon frozen in midair. Ethan forced a smile. Hey, kiddo, why don't you go play in your room for a bit? I need to talk to Sienna. Are you guys fighting? No, baby, we're not fighting. I just need a minute. Maya looked skeptical, but she got up and went to her room. As soon as she was gone, Ethan sank onto the couch and put his head in his hands. I don't know what I'm doing, he said quietly. I've been telling myself for 2 years that this is going to work, that I just need to keep pushing, but maybe everyone's right. Maybe I'm just wasting my time. Sienna sat down next to him. You're not wasting your time. How do you know? Because I've seen what you've built. I've seen how hard you work, and I've seen the way your face lights up when you talk about it. That's not nothing. It's also not a business model. So find one. You've got 2 months. That's not a lot of time, but it's enough to figure something out. Ethan looked at her. You really think so? I do, but you can't do it alone. You need help. I don't have the money to hire help. I'm not talking about hiring anyone. I'm talking about asking for help. From me, from your network, from anyone who believes in what you're doing. You're so busy trying to do everything yourself that you're drowning. I don't want to drag you into this. Too late. I'm already in it. He stared at her, and something in his chest loosened. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Staying, helping. Most people would have walked away by now. Sienna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Because I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning. And I know what it's like to not have anyone to help pull you out. I don't want that for you. Sienna, I mean it, Ethan. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. He didn't know what to say to that, so he just pulled her close and held her. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Then Maya's voice called from her room. Are you guys done talking? I'm bored. Sienna laughed. We're done, Maya. Maya came running back in and climbed onto the couch between them. Can we get pizza for dinner? Yeah, Ethan said, ruffling her hair. We can get pizza. Over the next few weeks, Ethan threw himself into work with a desperation that bordered on mania. He reached out to every school district contact he had, pitching his app over and over, trying to find someone willing to sign a licensing agreement. Most of them said the same thing. They loved the concept, but their budgets were tight, and they couldn't commit right now. Sienna helped where she could. She introduced him to people in her network, gave him feedback on his pitch deck, stayed up late with him while he worked through spreadsheets and projections. But even with her help, it felt like he was running in place. Meanwhile, Sienna's own life was starting to unravel in ways she couldn't hide anymore. It started with small things. She'd cancel plans at the last minute because a client emergency came up. She'd show up at Ethan's apartment looking exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her phone buzzing nonstop with emails and messages she couldn't ignore. One night, Ethan found her sitting on his couch at midnight, staring at her laptop with a look of pure defeat. What's wrong? He asked. Nothing, just work stuff. Sienna, she sighed and closed the laptop. One of my biggest clients just pulled their contract. Said they're going with a bigger firm. That's 20% of my revenue gone. Jesus, I'm sorry. It's fine. I'll figure it out. You don't have to figure everything out on your own. Yes, I do. That's the job. No, it's not. The job is running a company, not carrying the entire weight of it by yourself. You're one to talk. He sat down next to her. I know, that's why I'm saying it. We're both terrible at asking for help. Yeah, we are. She leaned against him, and Ethan wrapped his arm around her. They sat there in the dark, both of them too tired to talk, too worn down to do anything but exist together. The pressure kept building. Ethan's deadline was getting closer, and he still didn't have a signed contract. Sienna's company was hemorrhaging clients, and she was working 18-hour days trying to stop the bleeding. They saw each other less, talked less, and when they did, they were both too exhausted to be fully present. One night, Ethan showed up at Sienna's apartment unannounced. She answered the door in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, her hair tied up in a messy bun, and she looked so tired he almost turned around and left. "Hey," she said, "what are you doing here?" "I needed to see you." "Ethan, I'm in the middle of—" "I know, I'm sorry, but I've barely seen you in 2 weeks, and I'm losing my mind." She stepped aside to let him in. Her apartment was a mess, papers everywhere, empty coffee cups on every surface, her laptop open on the couch. She closed the door and leaned against it, looking at him with something that might have been guilt or frustration or both. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know I've been MIA. Things are they're falling apart, Ethan. My company is falling apart, and I don't know how to fix it. So let me help." "You can't. You've got your own stuff to deal with. I don't care. Tell me what's going on." She hesitated, then sat down on the couch and started talking. She told him about the clients she'd lost, the employees she couldn't afford to pay, the mounting debt she'd been hiding from everyone. She told him about her parents, who kept calling to ask why she wasn't doing better, why she couldn't just make it work. She told him about the crushing loneliness of being the person everyone relied on, the one who was supposed to have all the answers. "I'm so tired," she said, and her voice cracked. "I'm so tired of pretending I'm okay when I'm not." Ethan moved closer and took her hands. "Then stop pretending." "I can't." "Yes, you can. Not with me. Not here." She looked at him, and for the first time since he'd known her, she let herself cry. Not the quiet, controlled kind of crying, but the ugly, desperate kind that came from somewhere deep and raw. Ethan held her while she fell apart, and he didn't try to fix it or tell her it would be okay. He just let her break. When she finally stopped, she pulled back and wiped her face with the back of her hand. "Sorry, that was—" "Don't apologize." "I don't usually do that." "I know. That's the problem." She laughed, but it came out shaky. "You're right. I hate that you're right. I'm right about a lot of things. Don't push it." They sat there for a while, not talking, just breathing. Eventually, Sienna said, "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "This. Us. Letting someone in. I've spent my whole life keeping people at arm's length because it's easier, safer. But with you, I don't know. I want to let you in, but I'm terrified of what happens if I do. What do you think is going to happen?" "That you'll see how much of a mess I am and leave." "Sienna, I already know you're a mess. I'm a mess too. That's kind of our thing." She smiled, small and sad. "Yeah, I guess it is. So stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to have it all together. Just be here. With me. That's all I want." She looked at him for a long moment, and then she kissed him. It wasn't like their other kisses, soft and careful and full of possibility. This one was desperate, hungry, like she was trying to prove something to herself. Ethan kissed her back, his hands tangled in her hair, and for a little while the rest of the world disappeared. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathless. Sienna rested her forehead against his. "Stay," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." He stayed that night, and the next morning they woke up tangled together on her couch. Sienna's phone was buzzing on the coffee table, and she groaned and reached for it. "I have a meeting in an hour," she said, "so skip it." "I can't." "You can. Just this once. Stay here with me." She looked at him, torn. Then she set the phone down and curled back into him. "Okay, just this once." They spent the morning doing nothing, talking, laughing, eating cereal straight from the box because Sienna didn't have any clean bowls. It was the most normal, unremarkable morning Ethan had spent in months, and it felt like a gift. But reality came crashing back that afternoon when Ethan's phone rang. It was Derek. "Ethan, we need to talk." "What's up?" "I just got word that one of the school districts you were pitching went with a competitor. That was your best shot, man." Ethan's heart sank. "What competitor?" "EduTech Solutions. They've got deeper pockets and a bigger team. I'm sorry, but unless you've got something else lined up, I think we're done here." "Derek, wait. I'll give you until the end of the month, but if you don't have a contract by then, I'm out." The line went dead. Ethan stared at his phone, feeling like the floor had just dropped out from under him. "What happened?" Sienna asked. "I lost the deal. The big one. The one I was counting on." "Oh, Ethan. That's it. I'm done. There's no way I can land another contract in 2 weeks." "Yes, you can. No, I can't. It's over, Sienna. My company is over. He stood up and started pacing. Sienna stood too, trying to reach for him, but he pulled away. I need to go, he said. Ethan, don't. I need to figure this out. I can't just sit here and then let me help you. You can't help me. Nobody can help me. I built this thing, and I failed, and now I have to deal with it. The words came out harsher than he meant, and he saw Sienna flinch. He immediately regretted it, but the damage was done. Fine, she said quietly. Go. Sienna, just go, Ethan. Figure it out. I'll be here when you're ready to stop pushing me away. He wanted to apologize, to take it back, but he didn't know how, so he left. For the next few days, Ethan shut everyone out. He didn't answer Sienna's texts. He barely spoke to Maya. He spent every waking hour trying to salvage his company, reaching out to anyone who might be willing to invest, but every door he knocked on stayed closed. Maya noticed. Of course she noticed. One night, she came into the living room where he was working and sat down next to him. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine, kiddo. You're not fine. You haven't talked to Sienna in days and you look really sad. I'm just stressed. Work stuff. Is your company going to die? He looked at her surprised. Who told you that? Nobody. I just figured it out. You've been acting weird ever since you talked to that investor guy. Ethan closed his laptop and sighed. Yeah, it might die. I'm trying to stop it, but I don't know if I can. That sucks. Yeah, it does. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You should call Sienna. I will, just not right now. Why not? Because I messed up and I don't know what to say to her. You could start with sorry. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. You say sorry, you tell her you were being dumb, and then you ask her to help you. That's what people do when they love each other. Ethan stared at his daughter. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't listen. He pulled her into a hug. I love you, kiddo. I know. Now go call Sienna. He did. He picked up his phone and called her, and when she answered, her voice was careful. Hey. Hey, I'm sorry. For what? For shutting you out, for being an ass, for everything. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'm sorry too. I should have given you space instead of pushing. You weren't pushing. I was being stupid. Yeah, you were. He laughed, and it felt like the first real breath he'd taken in days. Can I see you? Yeah, come over. He did. And when she opened the door, she didn't say anything. She just pulled him inside and held him. And Ethan realized that Maya was right. Sometimes sorry was enough. They sat on her couch, and Ethan told her everything. The fear, the shame, the feeling that he'd let everyone down. Sienna listened, and when he was done, she said, You haven't let anyone down. I'm about to lose my company, so rebuild it. Do something different, but don't give up on yourself just because one thing didn't work out. It's not that easy. I know, but you're not alone. You've got me and Maya, and we're not going anywhere. He looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, he felt like he could breathe again. I love you, he said. The words came out before he could stop them, and for a second he panicked. It was too soon. They'd only been together a few months. She was going to think he was crazy. But Sienna just smiled, soft and real and full of something he couldn't name. I love you too, she said. And just like that, everything shifted. The words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Then Sienna laughed, a surprised, disbelieving sound, and kissed him hard enough that he forgot how to breathe. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you, Sienna Hayes. She pressed her forehead to his. I've never said that to anyone before, not like this. What do you mean? I mean, I've said it to my parents, to my brother, but never to someone never to someone like you. It's terrifying. Yeah, it is. But I meant it. I love you. They stayed like that for a long time, tangled up in each other, and Ethan felt something settle in his chest that he hadn't even realized was missing. The fear was still there, the uncertainty about his company, the stress of single parenthood, all the weight he'd been carrying for years. But for the first time, it didn't feel like he was carrying it alone. That night, Sienna asked him to stay again, and he did. They talked until almost dawn, lying in her bed, their voices low in the darkness. Sienna told him about her childhood, how her parents had always expected her to be the strong one, the responsible one, the one who held the family together when her brother fell apart. She told him about the loneliness of success, how the higher she climbed, the fewer people she could trust. She told him she'd built her company because she wanted to prove she could, but somewhere along the way it had stopped being about what she wanted and started being about what everyone expected. "I don't even know if I like what I do anymore," she admitted. "I used to love it, the challenge, the strategy, the feeling of building something from nothing. But now it just feels like I'm drowning in other people's problems, and I can't ever come up for air." "So change it," Ethan said. "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because if I change it, if I scale back or say no to clients or stop trying to be everything to everyone, then what? Then I'm not successful anymore. Then I'm just ordinary." "And what's wrong with ordinary?" She was quiet for a long time. "I don't know. I guess I've spent my whole life trying not to be." Ethan turned on his side to look at her. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think you're scared that if you stop performing, people will stop caring about you." Her breath hitched, and he knew he'd hit something true. "Maybe," she whispered. "But I'm here, and I care about you. Not because you're successful or strong or put together. I care about you because of who you are when you stop pretending. The person who makes terrible jokes when she's nervous. The person who builds couch forts with my daughter. The person who cries in my arms because she's tired of holding it all together." Sienna's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to stop. Then we'll figure it out together." She kissed him again, and this time it was slower, softer, like she was memorizing the feel of him. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, and when Ethan woke up the next morning, he felt lighter than he had in years. But reality came knocking soon enough. 2 days before Derek's deadline, Ethan still didn't have a contract. He'd pitched to every school district within a 100-mile radius, sent emails to education nonprofits, reached out to old contacts from his previous job, but nothing had landed. The app was good. He knew it was good, but good wasn't enough. He needed money, and he needed it now. He was sitting at his kitchen table, staring at his laptop, when his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but he answered anyway. "Ethan Carter?" "Yeah, that's me. This is Principal Anderson from Riverside School District. We spoke a few weeks ago about your app." Ethan sat up straighter. "Right. Yes, I remember. I've been thinking about our conversation, and I'd like to move forward with a pilot program. We have a grant specifically for assistive technology, and I think your app would be a great fit." Ethan's heart started pounding. Are you serious?" "Completely. I can't offer you a long-term contract yet, but I can commit to a 6-month pilot with an option to extend if it works out. Would that interest you?" "Yes, absolutely. When can we start?" They talked logistics for another 20 minutes, and by the time Ethan hung up, he was shaking. It wasn't the massive deal he'd been hoping for, but it was something. It was enough to keep Derek on board, enough to buy him more time. He called Derek immediately. "I got a contract." "You're kidding." "I'm not. Riverside School District, 6-month pilot with an option to extend." Derek was quiet for a moment. "How much?" Ethan told him. It wasn't huge, but it was enough to prove the concept, enough to show that schools were willing to pay for the app. "Okay," Derek said finally. "That's good. That's really good. Send me the details, and we'll talk about next steps." When Ethan hung up, he let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Then he called Sienna. "I got it," he said as soon as she picked up. "I got the contract." "Ethan, oh my God, that's amazing. I know, I can't believe it. I thought I was done, and then, see? I told you, you just needed to keep going. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. But I'm glad I was here anyway." He told Maya when she got home from school, and she screamed and threw her arms around him. "Dad, that's so cool." "Yeah, kiddo, it is. Does this mean we're not going to be poor anymore?" Ethan laughed. "We were never poor, Maya. We were kind of poor. Okay, maybe a little. But yeah, this helps." That night, they celebrated with pizza and ice cream, and Sienna came over to join them. Maya insisted they watch a movie, and they all piled onto the couch. Maya in the middle, Ethan on one side, Sienna on the other. Halfway through the movie, Maya fell asleep with her head on Sienna's shoulder, and Sienna looked down at her with that same soft expression Ethan had seen before. "She's getting attached to you," Ethan said quietly. "Is that okay?" "Yeah, it's more than okay." Sienna smiled, and Ethan felt that same shift again, the feeling that his life was changing in ways he couldn't control, but for once, that didn't scare him. But just when things seemed to be stabilizing, Sienna's world started falling apart. It happened fast. One of her biggest clients, a national retail chain, pulled their contract with less than a week's notice. They didn't give a reason, just said they were going in a different direction. That same week, 2 of her employees quit because she couldn't afford to give them raises, and her landlord informed her that her office lease was going up by 30%. Sienna didn't tell Ethan right away. She tried to handle it on her own, the way she always did. But Ethan could see it in the way she carried herself, the tightness in her shoulders, the exhaustion in her eyes, the way she stopped sleeping through the night. One evening, Ethan showed up at her apartment unannounced and found her sitting on the floor, surrounded by papers, her laptop open in front of her, her face streaked with tears. "Sienna, what's going on?" She looked up at him, and the expression on her face was pure devastation. "I can't do this anymore." "Can't do what?" "Any of it. My company, this life, all of it. I'm drowning, Ethan. I've been drowning for months, and I just keep pretending I'm not, but I am." He sat down on the floor next to her. "Tell me what happened." She told him everything: the lost clients, the employees who left, the mounting debt, the lease increase she couldn't afford. She told him she'd been considering shutting down the company, but the thought of failing, of admitting she couldn't make it work, was unbearable. "My parents will never let me live it down," she said. "They've been calling me every week asking how things are going, and I keep lying and saying everything's great, but it's not. It's a disaster." "So tell them the truth." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because they'll say I told you so. They'll say I should have taken that corporate job they wanted me to take. They'll say I was stupid for trying to do this on my own." "Who cares what they say?" "I do. I care. I've spent my entire life trying to prove to them that I'm good enough, that I can succeed without their help, and if I fail now, it's like everything I've done was for nothing." Ethan took her hands. "It's not for nothing. You built a company from the ground up. You created jobs. You helped businesses grow. That's not nothing, even if it doesn't last forever." "But I wanted it to last." "I know, but maybe it's okay if it doesn't. Maybe it's okay to let go of something that's killing you." Sienna looked at him, her eyes red and swollen. "I don't know how to let go." "Then let me help you." Over the next few days, Ethan and Sienna sat down and went through her finances together. It was brutal. The numbers were worse than she'd let on, and it became clear pretty quickly that keeping the company afloat wasn't sustainable. She could keep fighting, keep burning through what little savings she had left, but it would only delay the inevitable. "What if I scaled back?" Sienna asked one night. They were sitting at her kitchen table, spreadsheets open on both their laptops. "What if I let go of the office, worked from home, and just kept a few key clients?" "Could you do that?" "I think so. I'd have to let the rest of my staff go, which sucks, but it's better than shutting down completely." "Would that make you happy?" She hesitated. "I don't know, but it would give me breathing room, and right now, that's what I need." So that's what she did. Over the next 2 weeks, Sienna systematically dismantled the company she'd spent 5 years building. She let her remaining employees go with generous severance packages she couldn't really afford. She broke her office lease and moved everything into her apartment. She cut ties with clients who weren't profitable and focused on the handful who were. It was hard, harder than she expected. But Ethan was there through all of it, helping her pack up her office, sitting with her while she made difficult phone calls, holding her when she cried. "I feel like such a failure," she said one night. "You're not a failure." "I am, though. I couldn't make it work." "You made it work for 5 years. That's not nothing." "It's not what I wanted." "I know, but maybe what you wanted wasn't what you needed." She looked at him, and something in her expression shifted. "You're annoyingly wise sometimes." "I have my moments." By the time everything was done, Sienna's company was a fraction of what it had been. But she was also sleeping through the night again, and the constant tension in her shoulders had eased. She still worked hard, but it was a different kind of hard, manageable, sustainable. "I think I forgot what it felt like to breathe," she told Ethan one morning. They were lying in bed, sunlight streaming through the windows. I've been holding my breath for so long I didn't even realize it. And now? Now I feel like I can finally exhale. Things were good for a while after that. Ethan's pilot program with Riverside was going well, and he'd started getting inquiries from other districts. Sienna's scaled-back business was stable, and she was rediscovering why she'd started it in the first place. Maya was thriving, doing well in school and spending more time with Sienna. They'd fallen into a rhythm, dinners together a few nights a week, lazy Sunday mornings, stolen moments between work and responsibilities. But life had a way of throwing curveballs when you least expected them. It was a Thursday afternoon when Sienna's landlord called. Ethan was at her apartment working on his laptop while she was on a client call in the other room. When she came out, her face was pale. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked. "My landlord is selling the building. He's giving everyone 60 days to move out." "What? Can he do that?" "Apparently. The new owner wants to renovate and turn it into luxury condos." "Jesus, I'm sorry." Sienna sat down on the couch, looking shell-shocked. "I can't afford to move. I just broke my office lease. I'm barely keeping my head above water as it is. What about finding a cheaper place? In this city, with my credit score and my income right now, nobody's going to rent to me." Ethan's mind was racing. "What if you stayed with me?" Sienna looked at him. "What?" "Just temporarily. Until you figure something out. I've got the couch, or..." "Ethan, I can't." "Why not?" "Because I can't just move in with you. We've only been together a few months." "So, we love each other. We're together all the time anyway. What's the difference?" "The difference is that moving in together is a big deal. What if it doesn't work out? What if we're making a mistake? What if we're not?" Sienna stared at him, and Ethan could see the war happening behind her eyes. The fear of taking the leap, the exhaustion of trying to do everything alone, the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, this could work. "I need to think about it," she said finally. "Okay, think about it. But the offer stands." That night, Sienna called her brother. Ethan wasn't there for the conversation, but she told him about it later. Her brother had offered to let her stay with him and his girlfriend, but the apartment was tiny and the idea of being a burden on him made her feel sick. Then she'd called her parents, and that conversation had gone about as well as expected. "They told me I should have been smarter with my money," Sienna said. "They said if I'd listened to them and taken that corporate job, I wouldn't be in this mess. They offered to help, but only if I agreed to shut down my business completely and move back home." "Are you going to do it?" "No, I can't. I'd rather sleep in my car than move back in with them." "Then don't. Stay with me." "Ethan, I'm serious. Stay with me and Maya. We have the space. It makes sense." "It doesn't make sense. We're rushing into this." "We're not rushing. We're making a practical decision based on where we're at right now. And where we're at is that I love you, you love me, and you need a place to stay. So stay." Sienna looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "What about Maya? Have you asked her?" "Not yet, but I will." That night, after Sienna went home, Ethan sat Maya down at the kitchen table. "Hey, kiddo, I need to talk to you about something." Maya looked up from her homework. "Is this about Sienna moving in?" Ethan blinked. "How did you... I heard you talking on the phone earlier. You're not very quiet, Dad." "Right. Well, what do you think about it?" Maya shrugged. "I think it's cool." "You do?" "Yeah, Sienna's nice. She makes you happy. And she's fun. Plus, she's way better at cooking than you are." Ethan laughed. "Okay, fair. Is she going to sleep in your room?" Yeah, probably." "Okay, that's fine. But can we still have pancake Sundays?" "Of course we can." "Then I'm good with it." It was that simple for Maya. Ethan wished it could be that simple for him and Sienna. The next day he told Sienna what Maya had said. Sienna looked relieved, but the worry was still there in her eyes. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "I've never been more sure about anything." "What if it's too much? What if we can't handle living together?" "Then we'll figure it out. But I'd rather try and fail than not try at all." Sienna took a deep breath. "Okay. Okay? Okay. I'll move in with you." Ethan pulled her into his arms, and she held on to him like he was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting beneath her feet. Moving Sienna in was chaotic. She didn't have a lot of stuff. Most of her furniture had come with the apartment. But what she did have didn't fit easily into Ethan's small two-bedroom. They spent a weekend rearranging, cramming her clothes into his closet, stacking boxes in corners, trying to make space for two lives that had been separate for so long. Maya helped, mostly by getting in the way and asking a million questions. Where's this going to go? Can I have this box? Why do you have so many shoes, Sienna? Because I'm an adult with a shopping problem, Sienna said, laughing. By Sunday night, they were exhausted but settled. Sienna stood in the middle of the living room, looking around at the strange new configuration of her life, and Ethan could see the uncertainty written all over her face. You okay? He asked. Yeah, this is weird. Good weird, but weird. It'll get less weird. Promise? Promise. That first week was an adjustment. Sienna was used to living alone, to having her own space and her own routine. Now she was sharing a bathroom with an 8-year-old who left toothpaste everywhere and a man who apparently could not put his dirty clothes in the hamper to save his life. Ethan was used to managing his and Maya's schedule without having to consider anyone else. Now there was another person in the mix, another set of needs and preferences and habits. They bickered about small things: who left the dishes in the sink, whose turn it was to take out the trash, why the bathroom was always occupied when Ethan needed to get ready for a meeting. But they also figured out how to coexist. They established routines, they learned each other's rhythms, and slowly the weirdness started to fade. One night, about 3 weeks after Sienna moved in, Ethan came home from a meeting to find her and Maya in the kitchen making dinner together. Maya was standing on a stool, stirring something on the stove, and Sienna was next to her, chopping vegetables and laughing at something Maya said. "Dad, we're making stir-fry." "I can see that." "Sienna's teaching me how to cook. She says you're hopeless." "I did not say hopeless," Sienna protested. "I said you have room for improvement. That's basically the same thing." They ate dinner together. The three of them crowded around the small kitchen table, and Ethan watched his daughter and the woman he loved talk and laugh and tease each other, and he felt something settle in his chest that he couldn't quite name. This was his family now. Not perfect, not without its complications, but real and solid and his. But even as things stabilized at home, the pressure at work kept building. Ethan's pilot program was going well. Too well, actually. The feedback from teachers and students was overwhelmingly positive, and now other districts were reaching out, wanting to know how they could get access to the app. It was exactly what Ethan had been hoping for, but it also meant he was drowning in work. He needed to hire developers to help scale the app. He needed to build out customer support. He needed to create training materials for teachers. He needed to do 1,000 things, and he didn't have the time or the money to do any of them properly. One night, he was at the kitchen table at 2 a.m, trying to fix a bug that had been plaguing him for days, when Sienna appeared in the doorway. "Come to bed," she said. "I can't. I'm so close to figuring this out. You've been saying that for 3 hours." "I know, but I'm close." She walked over and closed his laptop. "Ethan, come to bed." "Sienna, you're exhausted. You're making yourself sick. This can wait until tomorrow." "It can't. I have a demo with another school district in 6 hours." "Then you need to sleep so you don't completely bomb the demo." She was right, and he knew it. He let her pull him away from the table and into bed, and as soon as his head hit the pillow, he was out. But the cycle continued. Work piled up faster than he could handle it, and Ethan started making mistakes, missing deadlines, forgetting meetings, snapping at people when he didn't mean to. One afternoon, he got into an argument with Derek over a budget issue, and it escalated until Derek finally said, "You need to get your act together, Ethan. I believe in you, but you're spiraling, and if you don't pull it together, this whole thing is going to fall apart." Ethan knew he was right, but knowing it and fixing it were two different things. That night, he came home to find Sienna sitting on the couch, her laptop open, but she wasn't working. She was just staring at the screen, her expression distant. "What's wrong?" he asked. "My parents called. They want me to come home for Thanksgiving." "That's next week." "I know." "Are you going to go?" "I don't know. I haven't been home in 2 years. Every time I talk to them, it ends in a fight. But they're my parents, and I feel like I should." "Do you want to go?" "No, but I feel guilty not going." Ethan sat down next to her. "Then don't go." "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is. If going home makes you miserable, don't go. Stay here. Spend Thanksgiving with me and Maya." Sienna looked at him. You'd want that? Of course I would. We're a family now, aren't we? Her eyes filled with tears. Yeah, we are. She didn't go home for Thanksgiving. Instead, they spent the day together, the three of them, cooking a meal that was only half successful and watching movies and playing board games. It was simple and chaotic and perfect. And when Sienna's parents called that evening to guilt trip her, she held Ethan's hand and told them she was exactly where she wanted to be. But the peace didn't last. The following week, Ethan got a call from Derek that changed everything. We need to talk, Derek said, in person. They met at the same coffee shop where Derek had given him the ultimatum months earlier, and Ethan knew before Derek even opened his mouth that it wasn't good news. I'm out, Derek said. Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him. What? I'm pulling my investment. I'm sorry, Ethan, but I can't keep funding this. You're doing great work, but the margins aren't there, and I don't see a path to profitability in the next 2 years. I need to cut my losses. Derek, please, just give me a little more time. I've been giving you more time for 2 years. It's not working. The pilot is going great. Other districts are interested. We're building momentum. Momentum doesn't pay the bills. I'm sorry, Ethan. My decision is final. Derek stood up and left, and Ethan sat there alone, staring at his cold coffee, feeling like everything he'd built was crumbling around him. When he got home, Sienna took one look at his face and knew. What happened? Derek pulled out. It's over. Ethan, I lost. I tried everything, and I still lost. He sat down on the couch and put his head in his hands, and for the first time in months, he let himself break. Sienna sat down next to him and wrapped her arms around him, and Ethan leaned into her, feeling like every ounce of fight had drained out of his body. I don't know what to do, he said, his voice cracking. I put everything into this. Everything. And it's gone. It's not gone. The app is still there. The pilot program is still working. Derek pulling out doesn't erase what you built. It might as well. Without funding, I can't keep going. I can't pay developers. I can't scale. I'm back to square one, except now I'm older and more broke, and I have a kid depending on me. So what are you going to do? He looked at her, and the desperation in his chest felt like it was going to tear him apart. I don't know. Get a job, I guess. Something stable, something that pays the bills. Forget about the app and just survive. Sienna's expression shifted, and he could see her trying to find the right words. Is that what you want? It doesn't matter what I want. It matters what Maya needs. I can't keep chasing this dream when I'm barely keeping us afloat. Ethan, I'm done, Sienna. I gave it everything I had, and it wasn't enough. I need to let it go. She didn't argue with him. She just held him while he fell apart. And when Maya got home from school an hour later, Sienna was the one who told her that Dad was having a rough day and needed some space. Maya didn't ask questions. She just went to her room and closed the door, and Ethan felt like the world's biggest failure. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Sienna slept next to him, and he felt like he was suffocating under the weight of everything that had gone wrong. He'd failed at his marriage. He'd failed at his company. He was barely managing as a father. And now he was dragging Sienna down with him, pulling her into the wreckage of his life when she'd already been through enough. At 3 a.m, he got up and went into the living room. He sat on the couch in the dark, and that's where Sienna found him 20 minutes later. Can't sleep? She asked, sitting down next to him. No. Want to talk about it? Not really. She was quiet for a moment, then she said, I've been thinking. About what? About what you said earlier, about getting a stable job and letting go of the app. Yeah, that's the plan. Is it, though? Or is that just what you think you're supposed to do? Ethan looked at her. What's the difference? The difference is that you're making this decision out of fear, not out of what you actually want. I'm making it out of necessity. I don't have the luxury of following my dreams anymore. That's bullshit. He blinked. Excuse me? It's bullshit, Ethan. You're giving up because one investor pulled out. One. There are other investors, other ways to fund this. But you're so convinced you failed that you're not even willing to keep trying. That's not fair. Isn't it? You told me once that you believed in this app, that you thought it could actually help kids who needed it. So what happened to that belief? It got crushed by reality. No, it got crushed by Derek's opinion. But Derek isn't the only person in the world who gets to decide if your company is worth investing in. Ethan shook his head. You don't understand. I've been doing this for 2 years, Sienna. 2 years of barely sleeping, barely making rent, barely being present for my daughter. And for what? To end up exactly where I started? You're not where you started. You have a working product. You have schools that want to use it. You have proof that it works. That's not nothing. It's also not enough. Sienna grabbed his hands. Then make it enough. Find other investors. Apply for grants. Start a crowdfunding campaign. Do something other than giving up. Why do you care so much? Because I love you. And because I know what it's like to give up on something you believe in just because it's hard. I did it with my company. I scaled back because I was exhausted and scared. And you know what? I regret it. I regret not fighting harder. I regret letting other people's opinions dictate my choices. And I don't want you to make the same mistake. Ethan stared at her and something in his chest cracked open. I'm scared. I know. I'm scared that if I keep fighting, I'll just fail again, and I don't know if I can take that. Then fail. Fail and try again. But don't quit just because you're scared. He wanted to argue with her, to tell her she didn't understand, but the truth was she understood better than anyone. She'd been where he was, drowning, exhausted, ready to give up, and she'd found a way through. Maybe he could too. I don't know how to keep going, he admitted. Then let me help you figure it out. They stayed up the rest of the night talking. Sienna pulled out her laptop and started researching grants for education technology. Ethan made a list of potential investors he hadn't approached yet. They brainstormed ways to cut costs, to make the app more sustainable, to prove to the world that it was worth saving. By the time the sun came up, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in weeks: hope. Over the next few days, he threw himself back into work with a new sense of purpose. He applied for every grant he could find. He reached out to angel investors, to education nonprofits, to anyone who might be willing to listen. Most of them said no, but a few said maybe, and that was enough to keep him going. Sienna helped where she could. She used her marketing expertise to create a pitch deck that actually made sense. She connected him with people in her network who had connections in the education world. She stayed up late with him, working side by side, and Ethan realized that this was what partnership looked like. Not just loving someone when things were easy, but fighting alongside them when things got hard. One afternoon, Ethan got a call from a woman named Dr. Helen Martinez. She was the director of an education nonprofit that focused on assistive technology for students with learning disabilities, and she'd heard about his app through one of the teachers in the Riverside pilot program. I'd like to meet with you, she said. We're always looking for innovative solutions, and your app sounds like exactly the kind of thing we support. They met the following week at her office downtown. Dr. Martinez was in her 50s, sharp and no nonsense, and she didn't waste time with small talk. Tell me about your app, she said. Ethan walked her through it, the features, the beta testing results, the feedback from teachers and students. He showed her the data that proved it was working, and he was honest about the challenges he was facing. He didn't try to oversell or sugarcoat, he just told her the truth. When he finished, Dr. Martinez leaned back in her chair. This is impressive. Thank you. But I have to ask, why haven't you been able to secure more funding? Your product is solid, your results are strong. What's holding investors back? Ethan hesitated. They say the market is too niche, that the margins aren't there, that it's not scalable enough. And what do you say? I say they're wrong, but I also say I understand where they're coming from. This isn't a product that's going to make anyone a billionaire. It's a product that's going to help kids. And that's not always enough for investors. Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. I appreciate your honesty. Here's the thing, Ethan. Our nonprofit exists specifically to support projects like yours, projects that prioritize impact over profit. We have a grant program for education technology startups, and I think you'd be a strong candidate. Ethan's heart started pounding. How much are we talking about? $200,000 over 2 years, with the possibility of renewal if you hit certain benchmarks. Are you serious? Completely. But I need to be clear, this isn't free money. You'd have to meet specific goals, submit regular reports, and work with our team to ensure the app is reaching the students who need it most. Can you do that? Yes, absolutely. Good. I'll send you the application. If everything checks out, we can move forward. When Ethan left her office, he felt like he was walking on air. He called Sienna immediately. I think I just found a way to save the company. What? How? He told her about Dr. Martinez and the grant, and Sienna let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Ethan, that's amazing. It's not definite yet. I still have to apply and get approved. You'll get approved. I know you will. I couldn't have done this without you. You know that, right? If you hadn't pushed me to keep going, I would have given up. Well, good thing I'm stubborn. Good thing. That night, Ethan celebrated with Sienna and Maya. They ordered takeout and ate it on the living room floor, and Maya kept asking questions about what the grant meant and if they were going to be rich now. Not rich, Ethan said, laughing, but stable, which is almost as good. Can we get a dog? Maybe. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Maya groaned, but she was smiling, and Ethan realized how long it had been since he'd seen her this happy. She'd been carrying his stress along with him, even when he tried to hide it, and now that the weight was lifting, she could breathe again, too. Later that night, after Maya went to bed, Ethan and Sienna sat on the couch together, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her. I love you, he said. I love you too. I mean it. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd figure it out, but I'm glad you don't have to. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and then Sienna said, Can I tell you something? Always. I've been thinking about my company, about what I want to do with it. What do you mean? I mean, I've been running it on autopilot for the past few months, just trying to keep it alive, but I'm not happy. I'm not excited about the work anymore, and I think it's time to admit that. So what do you want to do? I don't know yet, but I think I want to start over. Do something different, maybe something smaller, more focused, something I actually care about. Like what? I don't know. But watching you fight for your company made me realize that I gave up on mine too easily. I let the stress and the pressure convince me that I was doing the wrong thing, but maybe I wasn't. Maybe I just needed to do it differently. Ethan turned to look at her. Then do it. Start over. Build something you actually want to build. It's scary. I know, but you're the one who told me not to quit just because I'm scared. She smiled. I hate when you use my own words against me. Too bad. It's happening. Over the next few weeks, Ethan poured everything into his grant application. He worked with Dr. Martinez's team to refine his pitch, to clarify his goals, to demonstrate the impact his app could have. Sienna helped him edit every word, and Maya sat next to him at the kitchen table while he worked, doing her homework and occasionally offering unsolicited advice. You should add more pictures, she said one night. People like pictures. Noted. And maybe make it less boring. It's really boring right now. Thanks, kiddo. Super helpful. Finally, the application was done. Ethan hit submit and leaned back in his chair, feeling like he'd just run a marathon. Now what? Sienna asked. Now we wait. The waiting was brutal. Dr. Martinez had said it would take 4 to 6 weeks for the grant committee to make a decision, and every day felt like an eternity. Ethan tried to distract himself with work, improving the app, following up with the schools and the pilot program, but the uncertainty gnawed at him. Meanwhile, Sienna was going through her own transformation. She'd started reaching out to former colleagues, exploring new business ideas, thinking about what she wanted her next chapter to look like. One night, she told Ethan she was considering going back to school to get a degree in nonprofit management. I've always wanted to do something that felt meaningful, she said. Something that wasn't just about making money, and I think this might be it. That's a big step. I know. But I'm tired of playing it safe. I'm tired of doing what I think I'm supposed to do instead of what I actually want to do. Then do it. I'm behind you 100%. She kissed him, and Ethan felt that same sense of partnership again. The feeling that they were building something together, not just a relationship but a life. One evening in early December, Ethan's phone rang. It was Dr. Martinez. Ethan, I have good news. Your grant application was approved. Ethan felt like the floor had dropped out from under him in the best possible way. Are you serious? Completely. The committee was impressed with your application, your results, and your vision. We'd like to move forward. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. You earned it. I'll send over the paperwork tomorrow and we can schedule a kickoff meeting next week. When Ethan hung up, he just stood there in the middle of the kitchen, staring at his phone, trying to process what had just happened. Dad? Maya called from her room. You okay? Yeah, kiddo, I'm okay. Sienna appeared in the doorway. What happened? I got it. I got the grant. Her face broke into the biggest smile he'd ever seen. Ethan! She threw her arms around him, and Maya came running out of her room, demanding to know what was going on. Ethan scooped her up and spun her around, and for the first time in years, he felt like everything was going to be okay. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Ethan signed the grant paperwork, hired a part-time developer to help with the app, and started planning the next phase of the pilot program. Sienna officially dissolved her marketing company and enrolled in a nonprofit management program that started in January. Maya finished the semester with straight A's and asked if they could finally get that dog. We'll see, Ethan said, which Maya correctly interpreted as probably yes. Everything was finally falling into place, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was still unresolved. He and Sienna were living together, building a life together, but they'd never actually talked about what that meant long term. Were they just dating? Were they committed? Were they going to stay together, or was this all temporary? One night, he decided to ask. They were lying in bed, the room dark except for the faint glow of streetlights coming through the window. Sienna was almost asleep, her breathing slow and even, but Ethan couldn't stop his mind from racing. Sienna, he said quietly. Are you happy? She turned to face him, her eyes half open. What kind of question is that? I mean, here, with me and Maya. Are you happy living with us? Of course I am. Why are you asking? Because we never talked about what this is. We never talked about whether this is permanent or temporary or what we're doing. Sienna was quiet for a moment, and then she propped herself up on one elbow. Do you want me to leave? No, God, no. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? I'm saying I love you, and I want you here, not just for now, but for a long time. Maybe forever. And I don't know if you feel the same way, and I'm scared to ask, but I need to know. Sienna's expression softened. Ethan, I moved in with you. I restructured my entire life to be with you. What do you think that means? I think it means you didn't have anywhere else to go. Is that really what you think? I don't know. Maybe. She sat up fully now, and Ethan could see the frustration and hurt in her eyes. You think I'm here out of convenience? You think I'm staying because I have no other options? I didn't say that. You kind of did. I need to know that you're here because you want to be, not because you feel like you have to be. Sienna took a deep breath. Ethan, listen to me. I'm here because I love you. I'm here because you and Maya are the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm here because for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Is that clear enough? Ethan felt something loosen in his chest. Yeah, that's clear. Good. Now stop overthinking everything and go to sleep. She lay back down, and Ethan pulled her close. But even as he held her, he knew there was something else he needed to say, something he'd been carrying for weeks. Sienna? What now? I want to marry you. She went completely still. Then she sat up again, staring at him in the darkness. What? I want to marry you. Not right now, but someday. I want you to be my wife. I want us to be a family. A real family. Not just two people living together, but everything. Ethan, are you proposing to me right now? No, I mean, not officially. I don't have a ring or anything. I needed you to know. I needed you to know that this isn't temporary for me. You're it. Sienna's eyes were shining now, and she leaned down to kiss him. You're an idiot. Is that a yes? It's not a no. So ask me again when you have a ring, and when you're not half asleep and panicking in the middle of the night. Ethan laughed. Deal. They fell asleep tangled together, and when Ethan woke up the next morning, he knew exactly what he needed to do. 2 weeks later, Ethan took Maya with him to a jewelry store downtown. She was bouncing on her toes, barely able to contain her excitement. Are we really getting a ring for Sienna? We are. Does this mean she's going to be my mom? Ethan crouched down to her level. She's not going to replace your mom, kiddo. But yeah, if she says yes, she'll be part of our family. I know that. I'm not dumb, Dad. I just mean she's going to stick around, right? Yeah, she's going to stick around. Maya grinned. Good. I like her. They spent an hour looking at rings, and Maya had opinions on every single one. Too big, too small, too shiny. Not shiny enough. Finally, Ethan found one that felt right. Simple, elegant, not too flashy. He could already picture it on Sienna's hand. "That's the one," Maya said. "You think?" "Definitely." Ethan bought the ring, and as they walked out of the store, Maya grabbed his hand. "Dad? Yeah? I'm really happy." Ethan squeezed her hand. "Me too, kiddo." That night, after Maya went to bed, Ethan pulled Sienna onto the couch. She looked at him, suspicious. "What's going on? You're being weird." "I'm not being weird." "You're definitely being weird." Ethan took a deep breath. He'd planned this out in his head a dozen times, but now that the moment was here, all his carefully rehearsed words disappeared. "Sienna, oh my God, are you proposing right now?" "I'm trying to, but you keep interrupting." She laughed, and Ethan could see the tears already forming in her eyes. He got down on one knee, and Sienna's hand flew to her mouth. "Sienna Hayes," he said, pulling the ring box from his pocket. "I know we've only been together for a few months. I know this is fast, but I also know that I love you more than I've ever loved anyone. I know that you make me want to be a better person. I know that Maya adores you, and so do I. And I know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you, so will you marry me?" Sienna was crying now, full-on crying, and she nodded before she could even get the words out. "Yes, yes, of course I'll marry you." Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, and she pulled him up and kissed him hard enough that he almost fell over. They were both laughing and crying at the same time, and Ethan couldn't remember the last time he'd felt this happy. "I can't believe you just did that," Sienna said. "I can't believe you said yes. Why wouldn't I? You're the best thing that ever happened to me." "I'm pretty sure you're the best thing that ever happened to me." They stayed up half the night talking about the future, about what kind of wedding they wanted, where they'd live, what their life would look like. It was overwhelming and exciting and terrifying all at once, but Ethan wasn't scared anymore. He had Sienna, he had Maya, and he had a future that felt real and solid and his. The next morning, Maya walked into the kitchen and saw the ring on Sienna's hand. She let out a scream loud enough to wake the neighbors. "You said yes!" "I did." "Does this mean we can get a dog now?" Sienna laughed. "We'll talk about it." Maya threw her arms around Sienna, and Ethan watched the two most important people in his life hold each other, and he felt something click into place. This was his family. Broken, complicated, messy, but real. And that was more than enough. The engagement didn't change much at first, which was exactly what Ethan had hoped for. They didn't rush into wedding planning or start obsessing over venues and guest lists. They just kept living their lives, except now there was a ring on Sienna's finger and a sense of permanence that hadn't been there before. Maya, however, had other ideas. "When's the wedding?" she asked at breakfast one morning, about a week after the proposal. "We haven't decided yet," Sienna said. "Well, decide faster. I want to be a flower girl." "You're going to be more than a flower girl," Ethan said. "You're going to be part of the whole thing. Can I wear a fancy dress? The fanciest? And can we finally get a dog?" Sienna laughed. "You're relentless." "I know, so can we." "We'll see." Maya groaned and went back to her cereal, but Ethan could see the wheels turning in her head. She was already planning the entire wedding in her mind, probably with at least 3 dogs involved. The truth was, Ethan wasn't in a rush to get married. Not because he had doubts, but because everything finally felt stable for the first time in years, and he wanted to savor it. His company was growing steadily thanks to the grant. Sienna was thriving in her nonprofit management program. Maya was happy and doing well in school. They were building something together, and he didn't want to disrupt that just to check a box on some timeline. But as the months passed, Ethan started to realize that getting married wasn't about disruption. It was about solidifying what they already had. It was about standing in front of the people they loved and saying, "This is real. This is forever." One evening in late February, Sienna brought it up. They were sitting on the couch after Maya had gone to bed, and she was scrolling through her phone when she suddenly looked up at him. "What if we did it this summer?" "Did what?" "Got married. We could do something small, just family and close friends, nothing fancy." Ethan considered it. "You really want to?" "I do. I mean, we're already living like we're married. We might as well make it official." "What about your parents?" Sienna's expression darkened slightly. "What about them? Are you going to invite them?" "I don't know, probably, but if they show up and make it about them, I'm going to lose it." Then we'll make sure they don't. It's our wedding, not theirs. She smiled. Our wedding. I like the sound of that. They started planning after that, but true to form, they kept it simple. No massive venue, no elaborate decorations, no stress over seating charts and color schemes. They found a small garden in the city that rented out for events, picked a date in early July, and invited about 50 people, mostly family, a few close friends, and Maya's teacher, who Sienna had become close with over the past year. Maya was predictably over the moon. She insisted on helping with everything, from picking out flowers to choosing the music. One afternoon, she and Sienna spent 3 hours trying on dresses at a boutique downtown, and when they came home, Maya was practically vibrating with excitement. I found the perfect dress, Dad. It's purple, and it has sparkles, and it's so pretty. Sounds perfect. And Sienna found her dress too, but I can't tell you what it looks like because it's a secret. Got it. No asking. Maya ran off to her room, and Sienna collapsed onto the couch next to Ethan. Your daughter has more energy than I've ever had in my entire life. Tell me about it. But she's happy, really happy. Yeah, she is. Sienna rested her head on his shoulder. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, like this is all too good to be true, and the other shoe is going to drop. Nothing's going to go wrong. You don't know that. No, but I'm choosing to believe it anyway. She looked up at him. When did you get so optimistic? I'm not optimistic. I'm just done waiting for things to fall apart. We've been through enough. It's time for things to go right. Sienna kissed him, and Ethan felt that same sense of peace that had been growing in him for months. They weren't perfect. Their lives weren't perfect, but they were theirs, and that was enough. As the wedding got closer, Ethan's company hit a major milestone. The app had expanded to over 20 school districts, and the feedback from teachers and students was overwhelmingly positive. Dr. Martinez's nonprofit had been thrilled with the progress, and they'd already started discussing the possibility of extending the grant for another 2 years. One afternoon, Ethan got a call from a venture capital firm that had heard about his work through one of the school districts. They wanted to meet with him to discuss potential investment opportunities. We're not looking to take over, the woman on the phone said. We're looking to support what you're already doing. We think there's real potential here, and we'd love to talk. Ethan agreed to meet with them, but he was cautious. He'd been burned by investors before, and he wasn't about to let someone swoop in and change the direction of his company just because they saw dollar signs. The meeting was in a sleek office downtown, and the partners were exactly what Ethan expected: polished, confident, the kind of people who threw around phrases like synergy and scalability without blinking. But they also seemed genuinely interested in the app, and they asked thoughtful questions about his vision and his goals. Here's the thing, Ethan said at one point. This app isn't about making a ton of money. It's about helping kids who need it. If you're looking for a massive return on investment, this probably isn't the right fit. The lead partner, a woman named Rachel Chen, smiled. We're not looking for a massive return. We're looking for impact. My son has ADHD, and he struggled in school for years before we found the right tools to help him. When I heard about your app, I knew I wanted to be involved. Ethan felt some of his guard drop. So what are you proposing? A strategic investment, enough to help you scale without losing control of your company. We'd take a minority stake, and you'd retain full decision-making authority. And what's in it for you? The satisfaction of knowing we're helping kids like my son, and yes, eventually, a return on investment. But we're not in a rush. We believe in playing the long game. Ethan left the meeting feeling cautiously optimistic. He talked it over with Sienna that night, and she helped him weigh the pros and cons. It sounds like a good opportunity, she said, but you have to trust your gut. If something feels off, walk away. Nothing feels off. That's what's weird. I keep waiting for the catch, but there isn't one. Then maybe there isn't a catch. Maybe this is just good timing. Ethan thought about it for a few days, and then he called Rachel and told her he was in. They signed the paperwork a week later, and just like that, Ethan's company had the funding it needed to grow without the constant fear of running out of money. I can't believe this is happening, he told Sienna one night. They were lying in bed, and she was tracing patterns on his chest with her fingers. You deserve it. I don't know about that. I do. You worked your ass off for this. You never gave up, even when you wanted to. This is yours, Ethan. Own it. He kissed the top of her head. I love you. I love you too. The The weeks leading up to the wedding were a blur of activity. Ethan finalized the details with the venue, Sienna coordinated with the caterer, and Maya made sure everyone knew exactly what their roles were. She'd appointed herself the unofficial wedding coordinator, and she took the job very seriously. "Dad, you have to practice your vows," she said one evening. "I am practicing." "No, you're mumbling to yourself in the kitchen. That's not practicing." "What do you want me to do?" "Say them out loud, to me, so I can tell you if they're good or not." Ethan sighed. "Fine, but no judging. I'm going to judge a little." He pulled out the notebook where he'd been scribbling ideas for his vows and started reading. Maya listened intently, her face serious. "Well?" he asked when he finished. "It's good, but you should add something about how Sienna makes you laugh. You're always laughing when she's around." "That's a good point. Thanks, kiddo." "You're welcome. Now can we please talk about the dog situation?" Ethan laughed. "We'll talk about it after the wedding." "That's what you always say." "And I always mean it." Maya rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. The day before the wedding, Sienna's parents arrived in town. Ethan had met them once before, briefly, and the encounter had been stiff and uncomfortable. Sienna's mother, Patricia, was polished and critical, the kind of woman who noticed every flaw and wasn't afraid to point it out. Her father, Richard, was quieter but no less judgmental. They both made it clear that they thought Sienna could have done better. "So you're a teacher?" Patricia asked Ethan at dinner that night. They were at a restaurant near the hotel where Sienna's parents were staying, and the atmosphere was tense. "I'm not a teacher. I run an education technology company." "Oh, how interesting." Her tone made it clear she found it anything but interesting. "Mom," Sienna said, her voice tight, "can we not do this?" "Do what?" "I'm just asking questions." "You're being passive-aggressive." "I'm being polite." Ethan put his hand on Sienna's knee under the table, trying to calm her down. He could see the frustration building in her, and he didn't want the night to end in a fight. "How's your company doing, Sienna?" Richard asked, clearly trying to change the subject. "I shut it down," Sienna said flatly. "I'm in school now, studying nonprofit management." Patricia's eyebrows shot up. "You shut it down? Why would you do that?" "Because I wasn't happy. And because I wanted to do something that felt meaningful." "But you were so successful." "I was miserable." "Well, that's—" Patricia paused, clearly struggling to find the right words. "That's a shame." "It's not a shame. It's a choice." The conversation limped along for another hour, and by the time they left the restaurant, Sienna was barely holding it together. Ethan drove her back to their apartment, and as soon as they were inside, she let out a long breath. "I hate them," she said. "No, you don't." "Okay, I don't hate them. But I hate the way they make me feel, like nothing I do is ever good enough." "You don't have to prove anything to them." "I know, but I want to. I want them to be proud of me, and they never are." Ethan pulled her into his arms. "Then screw them. Be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. Maya's proud of you. That's what matters." She nodded against his chest, and they stood like that for a long time. The next day was the wedding. Ethan woke up early, his stomach full of nerves. He'd been so focused on the logistics of planning that he hadn't really let himself think about what the day would mean. But now, standing in the bathroom trying to knot his tie for the third time, it hit him. He was getting married. He was marrying Sienna Hayes, and she was going to be his wife, and they were going to build a life together. "Dad, you're taking forever," Maya called from the hallway. "I'm almost ready." "You said that 10 minutes ago." He gave up on the tie and walked out into the living room. Maya was already dressed in her purple, sparkly dress, and she looked so grown up that Ethan felt his throat tighten. "You look beautiful, kiddo." "Thanks. You look nervous." "I am nervous." "Why? You love Sienna. She loves you. It's going to be fine." "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You just don't listen." He laughed and pulled her into a hug. "I love you, Maya." "I love you too, Dad. Now let's go get you married." The ceremony was at 4 in the afternoon, and by the time Ethan arrived at the garden, his nerves had settled into a kind of calm anticipation. The space was beautiful. Simple white chairs arranged in rows, flowers everywhere, string lights hung overhead, even though it was still daylight. It was exactly what they'd wanted. Ethan stood at the front with the officiant, and Maya stood next to him, holding a small bouquet. The guests started arriving, taking their seats, and Ethan scanned the crowd for Sienna's parents. They were sitting in the front row, looking stiff and uncomfortable, but at least they were there. Then the music started, and everyone turned to look. Sienna appeared at the entrance to the garden, and Ethan forgot how to breathe. She was wearing a simple white dress, her hair loose around her shoulders, and she was holding a bouquet of wildflowers. She looked nervous and happy, and absolutely stunning, and Ethan felt like the luckiest person alive. She walked down the aisle slowly, her eyes locked on his, and when she reached him, she smiled. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi." The ceremony was short and sweet. They'd written their own vows, and Ethan had practiced his so many times that he could recite them in his sleep. But standing there in front of everyone, looking at Sienna, he forgot half of what he'd planned to say. "I'm not good at this," he started, and the crowd laughed. "But I'm going to try. Sienna, when I met you, I was a mess. I was exhausted and broke and convinced that I'd never have anything good in my life again. And then you walked into that restaurant, and everything changed. You didn't fix me. I don't think anyone can fix another person. But you made me want to be better. You made me believe that I deserved to be happy. And you gave me a family. Not just you, but this whole beautiful, chaotic life we've built together. I love you. I love you more than I ever thought I could love anyone. And I promise to spend the rest of my life showing you that." Sienna was crying by the time he finished, and she wiped her eyes before starting her own vows. "Ethan, I spent my entire life trying to be perfect, trying to be strong and successful and in control, and it made me miserable. I was so lonely, and I didn't even realize it until I met you. You saw through all the walls I'd built, and instead of running away, you stayed. You loved me when I was falling apart. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And you gave me a home, a real home where I don't have to pretend I have it all together. I love you, and I love Maya, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with both of you." The officiant pronounced them married, and Ethan kissed Sienna while everyone cheered. Maya threw flower petals everywhere, and for a moment, everything was perfect. The reception was just as simple as the ceremony. They had dinner under the string lights, and Maya gave a speech that made everyone laugh and cry. Sienna's parents stayed for an hour before making excuses about being tired, and Sienna barely reacted when they left. "I don't care," she said to Ethan. "They don't get to ruin this." "They're not ruining anything." "Good." They danced under the lights, and at one point, Maya cut in and demanded her turn with Ethan. He spun her around the makeshift dance floor, and she giggled the whole time. "This is the best day ever," she said. "Yeah, kiddo, it is." When the night finally ended and all the guests had left, Ethan and Sienna drove home with Maya asleep in the back seat. They carried her inside and tucked her into bed, and then they collapsed onto the couch, exhausted but happy. "We're married," Sienna said, looking at her ring. "We are." "That's weird." "Good weird or bad weird?" "Good weird, definitely good weird." They sat there in the quiet of their apartment, and Ethan felt a sense of contentment he'd never experienced before. This was his life now. This messy, imperfect, beautiful life. The months after the wedding were some of the best of Ethan's life. His company continued to grow, and he hired a small team to help manage the expansion. Sienna finished her first semester of grad school with straight A's, and she started talking about maybe starting a nonprofit of her own someday. Maya thrived, and after months of begging, they finally adopted a dog, a scruffy mutt from the shelter that Maya immediately named Rocket. "I told you we'd get a dog," Maya said smugly. "You were right. You were always right." "I know." One evening in late November, almost a year and a half after that first disastrous dinner, Ethan was sitting at the kitchen table going over financial projections when Sienna walked in and set a glass of wine in front of him. "You need a break," she said. "I'm almost done." "You've been saying that for 2 hours." He closed his laptop. "Fine. I'm taking a break." She sat down next to him. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "Are you happy?" Looked at her surprised. "Of course I am." "Why?" "I don't know. Sometimes I look at our life and it feels too good to be true. Like I'm waiting for something to go wrong. Nothing's going to go wrong." "You don't know that." "No, but I've learned something over the past few years. Life is always going to throw curveballs. There's always going to be something hard or stressful or uncertain, but that doesn't mean we can't be happy anyway. It just means we have to choose to be. Sienna smiled. When did you get so wise? Maya says the same thing. She's right. They sat there in comfortable silence, and Ethan thought about how far they'd come. From that first dinner where everything went wrong to this, a home, a family, a life they'd built together. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been perfect, but it had been real, and that was what mattered. A few weeks later, Ethan got a call from Dr. Martinez. His company had been selected for a national award recognizing innovative education technology. The ceremony was in Washington, D.C., and they wanted him to give a speech. That's amazing, Sienna said when he told her. You have to go. I don't know. It's a lot of travel, and I've got so much work. Ethan, go. You earned this. Earned. So he went, and Sienna and Maya came with him. They made a weekend out of it, visiting museums and monuments, and on the night of the ceremony, Ethan stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people and talked about his app and his journey and what he'd learned along the way. I almost gave up, he said, more than once. I was exhausted and broke, and I didn't think I could keep going. But I had people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. My daughter, who reminded me why I was doing this in the first place. My wife, who pushed me to keep fighting when I wanted to quit. And the educators who saw the value in what I was trying to build. This award isn't just for me. It's for all of them. When he walked off the stage, Sienna was waiting for him with tears in her eyes. I'm so proud of you, she said. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to. That night, they stood on the balcony of their hotel room, looking out at the city, and Ethan felt that same sense of peace he'd been carrying for months. He had a family. He had a career he believed in. He had a wife who loved him and a daughter who made him laugh every day. It wasn't perfect, but it was his. What are you thinking about? Sienna asked. Just everything. How different my life is now compared to a couple years ago. Good different? The best different. She leaned into him and they stood there together, watching the lights of the city flicker in the darkness. By the time Maya turned 10, Ethan's company had expanded to over 100 school districts across the country. He'd hired a full team, moved into an actual office, and finally felt like he could breathe without worrying about money. Sienna had graduated from her program and started working as a consultant for education nonprofits, helping them build sustainable business models. She was happier than Ethan had ever seen her, and she talked constantly about eventually starting her own organization. One Saturday morning, they were all sitting around the kitchen table eating pancakes when Maya looked up and said, I have a question. Shoot, Ethan said. When are you guys going to have a baby? Sienna choked on her coffee. What? A baby. You know, a little person. My friend Emma just got a baby brother, and I was thinking it would be cool if I had one too. Ethan and Sienna looked at each other. They'd talked about it before, in abstract terms, but they'd never made any concrete decisions. Do you want a sibling? Sienna asked. Maya shrugged. I think so. I mean, it would be kind of cool, and I could teach them stuff. Wow. Okay, we'll talk about it. After Maya went to her room, Ethan and Sienna stayed at the table, processing what had just happened. Did that really just happen? Sienna asked. I think so. Do you want another kid? Ethan thought about it. I don't know. Do you? I never thought I did. But now that Maya brought it up, I'm realizing maybe I do. It would be a lot of work. Everything worth doing is a lot of work. They talked about it for weeks, weighing the pros and cons, thinking about what it would mean for their lives. Eventually, they decided to try. It took a few months, but one morning in early spring, Sienna came out of the bathroom holding a positive pregnancy test. We're having a baby, she said, her voice full of wonder. Ethan pulled her into his arms, and they stood there in the hallway, holding each other and crying and laughing all at once. Maya was over the moon when they told her. She immediately started making plans for how she'd help take care of the baby, and she insisted on being involved in every decision, from nursery colors to baby names. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Sienna had terrible morning sickness for the first 3 months, and by the 3rd trimester she was exhausted all the time. But through it all, she kept working, kept showing up, kept being the strong, determined woman Ethan had fallen in love with. Their son was born on a cold day in January, and they named him Lucas. He had Sienna's dark hair and Ethan's eyes, and from the moment Maya held him in the hospital, she was completely smitten. "He's so small," she whispered. "You were that small once," Ethan said. "No way." Way. The first few months with a newborn were brutal. Ethan had forgotten how exhausting it was, and Sienna was navigating it for the first time. But they figured it out together, taking shifts with feedings and diaper changes, collapsing into bed whenever they could. Maya was a huge help. She'd hold Lucas while Sienna showered, sing to him when he was fussy, and make sure everyone remembered to eat actual meals. At 10 years old, she was already more responsible than most adults Ethan knew. One night, when Lucas was about 3 months old, Ethan found Sienna sitting in the nursery holding their son and staring out the window. She looked tired but peaceful. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, I was just thinking." "About what?" "About how scared I was when I met you. I was so convinced that letting someone in would ruin me, that love would just add more weight to everything I was already carrying. But it didn't. It made everything lighter." Ethan sat down next to her. "I was scared too." "I know. But you were right. Love doesn't make things harder. It makes them possible." Sienna looked at him, and there were tears in her eyes. "I'm so glad I didn't run away that night at the restaurant." "Me too." They sat there together, watching Lucas sleep, and Ethan thought about the journey that had brought them here. The failures, the heartbreak, the moments when he thought he couldn't keep going. It had all been worth it, every single second. By the time Lucas was a year old, Sienna had officially launched her nonprofit. It was small at first, just her and a couple of part-time employees. But the mission was clear: to provide resources and support for education technology startups focused on helping underserved communities. She partnered with Ethan's company on several projects, and together they were making a real difference. Maya was 12 now, smart and sarcastic and fiercely protective of her little brother. She'd started middle school and was already talking about wanting to work in education when she grew up. "I want to do what you and Sienna do," she told Ethan one day. "Help kids learn better." "That's a pretty great goal, kiddo." "I know, I got it from you." Ethan laughed. "I'll take that as a compliment." One evening in late summer, almost 4 years after that first dinner, Ethan and Sienna were sitting on the back porch of the small house they'd bought the year before. Lucas was asleep inside, and Maya was at a friend's house. It was just the two of them, a rare moment of quiet. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Sienna asked. "Honestly? No, sometimes I still can't believe this is my life." "Good life or bad life?" "The best life." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever think about that night, when my card got declined?" "All the time. I was so humiliated. I wanted to disappear." "I know, but I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you stayed." "Me too." They sat there in this fading light, and Ethan thought about everything they'd been through, the struggles, the mistakes, the moments when they'd wanted to give up. But they hadn't. They'd fought for each other, for their family, for the life they wanted to build. And now they had it. It wasn't perfect. There were still hard days, still moments of doubt and fear, but they faced them together, and that made all the difference. "I love you," Ethan said. "I love you too." "I mean it. I don't say it enough, but I do. You changed my life." "You changed mine too." They stayed on the porch until the stars came out, and when they finally went inside, Ethan felt that same sense of contentment he'd been carrying for years. This was his life. Messy, complicated, imperfect, but filled with love and laughter and people who made every struggle worth it. And that, he realized, was the whole point. Life wasn't about avoiding pain or achieving perfection. It was about finding the people who made you want to keep going even when things got hard. It was about building something real and solid, even when the world tried to tear it down. It was about choosing love over and over again, even when it was scary. Ethan had spent so many years running from that truth, convinced that he wasn't worthy of it, that he'd already had his chance and blown it. But he'd been wrong. Love wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't something you got right or wrong. It was something you built, day by day, moment by moment, with someone who was willing to build it with you. And he and Sienna had built something beautiful. Years later, when Maya was in college and Lucas was in elementary school, Ethan would look back on that first dinner and marvel at how much had changed. How a single humiliating moment had led to everything good in his life. How two broken people had found each other and somehow made each other whole. But that night on the porch, he didn't know any of that yet. He just knew that he was happy, that Sienna was happy, that their family was happy, and that was more than enough.